Welcome to Key Conversations, a Making It in the Music Business podcast. My goal for this podcast is to help you learn from these conversations with both experts and working musicians and serve as a guide to assist your career in the process. I'm your host, Cheryl B. Engelhardt. Let's get going. Welcome. Today I have a very special guest. We are sitting here together at the DIY Musician Conference in Nashville. This is Rick Barker.
Hello.
The CEO, the dude of MIB, not Men in Black.
But you know what? I do have the same font, and I've got it approved. I have a registered trademark for Music Industry Blueprint.
Blueprint.
With that font.
I love it.
I'm good to go.
What's the website? Just so we get that right.
MusicIndustryBlueprint.com. You know, or if you want to find out about me, go to rickbarker.com. That makes it easy. Somebody, did you buy your name online?
No, I was given it by my mother and father when I was born.
Well, that's your name, but your URL, your website.
Cheryl B. Engelhardt does exist, I think, but everything for me is CVE.
See, I had to go pay.
No one can spell Engelhardt.
rickbarker.com.
Oh.
Some guy was holding me hostage, said I was...
Because it's kind of a,
normal
words.
He valued me at $5,000. He said, your value is like $5,000. I'm like, dude, here's the deal. My dad is the other Rick Barker. He's the stuntman, doesn't want it. He doesn't even text. And then there's this Australian architect guy said, I'll give you $350 for it. They're like, okay, great. We'll take the $350. So go to rickbarker.com because I had to pay for that.
Yeah. But before you go there, we're going to talk about you. So
sure.
You don't even, give me 3 highlights of your music career because you do some cool stuff. So give us the nutshell world of you.
Sure. Grew up poor. Parents had a hobby called divorce, so I went to 3 different high schools. Sophomore year, the Christians and the Jocks took me in, so I went to church and played sports. Junior year, Christian and the Jocks took me in, so I played sports. Senior year, moved to California. The Stoners took me in, got hooked on drugs, lived homeless on the streets of Los Angeles, strung out on crack cocaine. And 15 years later, launched the career of superstar Taylor Swift. All right, cool. That's it.
We're done. Something happened in between the streets and Taylor Swift.
Living homeless on the streets and then launching the career of Taylor?
Yeah, so something happened there. And then also, Taylor, you're no longer
not with Taylor. Yeah,
so
no longer with Taylor.
Now you do you have a ton of online resources and blueprints for the music industry.
Sure.
So
back up a little bit.
So we've got this homeless on the streets, Taylor Swift, and you now. And I feel like there are 2 little gaps you could fill.
Yes.
But I like the laser nutshell share. So in
case lightning struck and they didn't really get to know anything. They said, do your elevator pitch. So I did. So
fill in 2 more elevators.
Once I got sober in the late 80s, and the reason that I share that story just for personal reasons is that
shaking the table here.
I always tell people that your past does not define your future, and I'm living proof.
So true.
There are a lot of people, exactly, and we're all going to be dealt weird circumstances sometimes. It doesn't get much weirder than that. So that's why I usually start with that. But it also taught me hustle. It's like when I got sober, I was 23 years old. So I didn't get to go to college. Drug addicts don't make real dependable students. They tend not to show up. People can't trust them. So as soon as I got sober, I went to community college and started taking things that interest me: psychology, human behavior, marketing. It's I was the type of student where I did just enough to stay eligible for sports, but if I liked something, I'd get an A. So you'd see A's and C's and D's. There were nothing in between. That was kind of what my role was. Yep. So radio was something I always wanted to do. Fell in love with radio. As soon as I got sober, got an internship. Got on the radio, did my whole radio career in Santa Barbara, absolutely loved it. 2001, got asked to start a country radio station. Cool. I had always done rock, hip-hop, AC, and I figured, I'm like, wow, I grew up in Alabama. I knew who Johnny Cash was, probably more qualified than most in California to do this. And then what I did is I started asking questions when I built this country station. It was right after 9/11. I fell in love with the music. I fell in love with the stories. Yep. The world was in a different time. And as these artists started coming through, I started asking questions. And I always tell people, it's I'm not going to be the smartest dude in the room, but I'm going to ask the best questions. And then if I hear a problem, I'm a solutions person. I think that's what I saw today in your panel. You're also like that. It's we all know what the problems are. Mm-hmm. So okay, we've identified them. Now let's go fix it.
Yeah.
And a lot of what you were teaching today, which made me laugh because I wanted to just scream every now and then going, common sense, common sense. It's like common sense marketing.
I gave you guys, for those of you who are listening, are like, what are you talking about? I gave a panel today on email marketing and growing your fan list, because you guys know that I dork out on email marketing. So yeah, a lot of it is common sense, but so many people come up after me. I had never even heard these words before. I never thought of it that way. Sometimes you just need it to be laid out in a different context. So that
but you did it in
do it.
such a way, and that's how I teach, and that's how I share, and that's how I was on the radio. Is It's like when I started asking these questions, and some of the things that I found out, and I think a lot of your folks are musicians, was, so I asked this question. So I come from the rock world.
Yep.
And they would bring these country artists through on what's called radio tour, and I said, why don't we ever get to see them play? And they said something to me one time, is they said, well, they don't have enough material. And I'm like, wait, you're telling me that you signed this band or this artist to a major label deal and they can't play for 30 minutes? And they're like, well, they had this song. And I'm like, that's broken. That's, yeah. I come from the rock side of things. So, and they said, and if no one knows who they are, no one will come see them play. So I said, what if I could build an audience for them? What if I could get them in front of people? What if I could get them paid? They're like, it'll never happen. I said, can I have the chance? They said, sure, you can have the chance. So I called a bunch of radio stations and said, could you give me $1,500, 3 hotel rooms and dinner? I'll get us an act that's at the bottom of the chart every month. They all agreed. I called the folks back in Nashville. They're like, you got radio to pay? I said, well, I asked the person who's in charge of the checkbook, and it's not the program director who you've been talking to, it's the sales manager. Yep. So I created a program called Nashville to You concept. If you can't get to Nashville, we'd be Nashville to you. And I help break bands like Sugarland and Little Big Town, who are big in the countryside. And I started teaching other radio stations how to do it. What that did was put me on the radar of Scott Borchetta, who runs Big Machine Records. Scott came to me and asked if I wanted to work at Big Machine Records when he split it up, and I asked him a question. I said, Scott, you can have anybody you want. Why me? And he says, I say this as a compliment. He said, but you're too dumb to know any better. Huh. And I said the same thing. That was my reaction. I'm like, okay, wait, how is that a compliment? And
thank you? No.
He said, Rick, he says, I'm starting this label with a guy out of Texas named Jack Ingram, a 15-year-old named Taylor Swift, and Danielle Peck, who's already had a failed single at another label. He says, everyone else will use that as a reason why it won't work. And as an excuse, he said, you seem to just kind of go in one direction. So I took the job. Well, let me rephrase that. My wife accepted the job because I'd been in California working 3 jobs to make $75,000 a year, paying for my own health insurance. And he offered $85,000 and health insurance. So she said, yes, he'll be more than happy to be a regional for Big Machine Records. 6 months into the process, it was getting ready to be Taylor's turn to go to radio. He sends her out to me. He says, teach her radio. You come from radio. She needs to learn radio. We spent 30 days together that changed kind of both of our lives because we were both too dumb to know any better. And we had made like a little pact. It was kind of like, and to back my story up a second, so right after I got sober, I'd also played soccer my whole entire life. My AA sponsor's daughter needed a soccer coach. They were 12-year-old little girls called the Miss Americas. That's what they felt about themselves.
Okay,
They'd
great.
run off 3 coaches. So they were in last place. They come to me. It's only supposed to be a 3-week gig. It ends up being an 8-month gig. And then I end up getting offered a job to coach girls high school soccer for a team that had never had a winning season. I felt that was God preparing me for Taylor because I speak teenage female. I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse, but I was about to launch this teenager onto the world, and we connected. We understood each other very, very well. And 6 months after doing that, her parents called and asked if I was interested in being her manager, and I said, absolutely not. I said, no. I said, I'm not qualified. And her dad said something to me that I'll never forget, and I share with everyone, is he said, look, he says, you believe in her, you're passionate about her, you could teach her, she wants to learn, you're willing to do the work with her. He said, but the most important trait, Rick, that you have going for you is you're not afraid to ask for help. He said, a lot of people see that as a weakness. He says, we see that as a strength. And I said, okay, we'll give it a shot. And we went for it. And I was with her from 0 to 4 million, as we call it. And I was with her up until 2008. And then I made a decision to leave. At the time, my last year with her, I was going 187 days. My daughter was 4. My son was 2.
Got it, yeah.
I come from divorced parents, as I said. I grew up poor, so I never made decisions based on money. Was about to go from the salary that I was on to a commission. I was like, all right, God, what's the plan? It's going to go out in alimony and child support. And to be honest, I'm probably not the best manager for an artist as they get bigger, because I love the development. I love the baby stages. That's where I shine, and I knew that. And it was also getting to the point where I was just saying no on her behalf all day, and it wasn't fun anymore. So I walked away. Didn't realize the street cred I was going to get. Got offered a job consulting at Sony Music. So I was able to spend 3.5 years there, kind of see how things were going, and then just decided I could help more people by starting the Music Industry Blueprint. Everyone felt they needed a manager, but what they needed was an advisor. They needed a coach. Kind of like, you know what I'm saying? It's like there wasn't anything to manage, and most of them weren't making any money, so they were like, they couldn't get these big time, quote unquote, big time managers. But also too, at the time when things were changing, those big time managers weren't keeping up with what was going on with digital and social. So Taylor and I started at MySpace, so I was there with MySpace and Facebook. So as they all got launched, I just got really good at that. And then I went out and just started learning from some of the best digital marketers, realizing this business was going digital, and got certified in Facebook marketing. I'm the only guy actually who teaches this that's verified on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And I went and worked hard for that because I want to be a practitioner.
And Instagram is
I love Insta. That's what we're going to talk about. I went so deep in my own personal story. Are you okay with that?
I'm so okay with it. Okay. I don't edit these ever.
Okay, we can do 2 parts.
No. I'm so 2 parts is great. I'm so excited about that story because it's a really inspirational, the like Raj Torres kind of story, but also just really listening and being authentic with an artist, whoever that is. And this is great for artists to be able to find that person that you connect with and is asking the right questions. And I think just getting really clear on that path together and then knowing when to call it, I think that's also really wise. Someone just came up to me here in this conference and was like, hey, can I send you my music? And I was like, why? Because I spoke on a panel, and they're like, well, because you can connect me to people. I'm like, why would I connect? I don't listen to music because who cares what I think? I'm not a label. I'm listening.
I don't even see a CD player on this computer of yours.
There's not. First of all, I listen to music in my car if someone gives me a CD, But honestly, I was like, well, what do you really want? He's like, well, I want my music to get to people who can do something for me. I'm like, well, what is that thing you want them to do?
Right.
And he's like, well, I just want to get in. I'm like he literally didn't know what he wanted. I'm like, dude, that's not your problem. Your problem's not getting your music. It's because you don't know what you want. So like, I'm like, what? Like your lack of clarity is there. So you need a coach.
Well,
you don't need your music in someone else's hands. You need a mentor and a coach to help you develop a strategy.
But see, that's not what they want, because there's this sense of entitlement. Yeah, it's the wants and needs. And I have that discussion with my 14-year-old son all the time. Yeah. The difference between wants and needs.
I get it. I mean, I've been there, done that. I used to come to these things wanting to be found.
Because that's the way it used to be.
Yeah.
It's that handing that disc to Cheryl opened the door to this attorney, or opened the door to this booking agent, or opened the door to the label. Those doors aren't there anymore.
Yeah.
Now they want you prepared. Yeah, well, they want you prepared to go in. And that's what I tell people is it's like Scott Borchetta at Big Machine says it the best. And my team, we run his socials. He took me with him to American Idol. I'm involved with this Canadian show. We were at a conference one time, and a little girl's like, Scott Borchetta, why is it so hard to get to you? He says, you should be appreciative that it's so hard to get to me, because when you get to me, you're telling me you can compete with Taylor, you can compete with Kenny Chesney, you can compete with Keith Urban, and more than likely you can't. And honestly, I'm looking for reasons to say no, because it's so crowded. So don't give me any. So if he can't tell you his message, what the heck's he going to do if Puff Daddy says, I'm bringing to my girl Cheryl, and Cheryl gave me this disc. This guy walks in and he can't speak to him. His opportunity was just taken away from him.
My whole shtick is communication. I'm getting really, really clear on that. Pitching, email marketing, all of that stuff is about communication and clarity. And all the clarity and communication comes from you being clear on what you want. It starts with you. So
I had to put a DM on my Instagram page in my bio that says, please do not DM me and ask me to listen to your music. I do not care about your music.
Yeah, I care about what you want.
Correct.
And if you don't know what you want, then getting you to
and as a 51-year-old overweight white dude, your market, because I have rappers hit me up all the time because they know I love hip hop, and I'm like, dude, go in my bio and find out where I've had success breaking a rapper.
Yeah.
Dude, you shouldn't care, and don't ask too many industry people about what they think about your music, because they all have different opinions, and your head will spin. And you creatives are already weird anyway, because it has to be perfect. So if you got 9 different industry people telling you 9 different things, you're in the studio, nothing's ever getting done.
Yeah, because you gotta find the niche for that music the way it is, the way you want it, and
speaking of music, now you
Speaking
can
of
put
music.
full-length videos on Instagram, and I'm so excited I got us to Instagram.
Thank you.
That
I was
my
like,
goal.
we'll get there. I had like 3 or 4 different segments that I could work in there, but you just did it perfectly.
we got us to Instagram.
We're at Instagram. Okay.
I'm so excited about that.
Tell me, because you stay on the cutting edge with all these new platforms, and now Instagram is not new, but
Right.
they keep changing the stuff we can do with
Well,
it and getting Spotify.
and I was
so
not,
tell us the cool stuff.
and it's on record. I was not a fan of Instagram in the beginning because I didn't know how I was going to be able to build a relationship posting pictures, because at the time we couldn't even do video on Instagram yet. And how am I going to sell music? Because ultimately, I need to know how I can sell a T-shirt, how I can sell a bundle, how I can get someone to Patreon. It's like, and I didn't feel I could do that with a picture. I also, Snapchat, I brought no value to Snapchat.
Well, you heard me in my talk today. I was like,
Yeah.
Snapchat drives me bananas.
No, and it was like, so you don't need to see a filter with me with dog eyes and ears and all this stuff.
But
And
you do need to see a filter with me with cat ears.
oh, really?
Oh, wait, no.
You could
I
rock the
don't- I'm
cat.
not-
You could rock the cat.
I think
We'll
I
get-
can, but
okay.
I don't know what I
Okay,
think about
well, we're
Snapchat.
gonna look into that.
Yeah.
So when all of a sudden Instagram made a play to buy Snapchat, and Snapchat said no, Instagram kind of threw them the middle finger and said, then we're gonna make our platform do all the cool things you do. So now all of a sudden video came into play. So then it was 1 minute video. That's how it started. So, and you were only allowed one link inside your bio on Instagram. So there's some cool things out there like Linktree. So if you go onto my Instagram, which is @RickBarkerMusic, and you click in my bio, you'll see Linktree. Click here to get my book. Click here to go to my podcast. Click here to go to my
Linktree.
So Linktree, LINK, link.tree, something like that.
I'll put it in the show notes.
Yes, we'll get it in the show notes. I can't
Yeah.
remember how to spell it, but that created a cool thing. So you were able to do like a minute of your video. Then all of a sudden, Instagram said you're only allowed to have one thing in the bio. Then they said, wait a minute, if you get over 10,000 followers or you're verified, we'll let you do the swipe up feature. And I'm like, oh my gosh, now we can send them to a playlist. Now we can send them. So now I've fallen in love with Instagram because I knew that's where all the hip people and the cool people were at. So I'm now jumping in going, okay, guys, here's how we do this. Boom, we do this. We put the swipe up. Then Instagram went and logged in and partnered up with Spotify. And now in Spotify, on your song, you click share. You share it to your story, because that's where everyone's at right now, is the stories. Because the stories get featured. They pop up. If you're not doing Instagram stories, you should. They're easy. You can just take a picture. You tap on, you can put the temperature, you can put the city you're in, you can do another hashtag. They have the stickers, which was a big Snapchat thing, was the stickers.
Yeah, that's the steal right
So
there.
they've created that. But as an artist, what you have to remember is this, is what we take for granted every day in our day-to-day lives, because we're always going to the studios or going to this. That's interesting to somebody. That's interesting to your fans.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the cool ways, and I'll give you this quick little tip to get really rocking on your Instagram, is do a quick story, because you get 15 seconds, say, on my way in the studio, got this hook in my head, can't wait to share it with you later. Just that anticipation alone, people will be back later, and then in the studio, you show a couple pictures of you behind the mic or the producer doing the stuff, and then you invite them to an Instagram Live that says, I'm so excited to share with you what we created today. What you've done is you've allowed them to be with you at the giving of the birth of your child. And then when your child goes through its phases into the recording studio, onto the CD, onto the EP, now they feel like they've created and taken this journey with you. It's not hard for them to buy your CD, because they're not at that point. They're investing in the process which they were a part of. Stop keeping secrets. It's that's one of the things that I really had to know, is because I was like, nobody cares about this. No, a lot of people care about it.
keeping secrets.
A lot of people care about it.
And that's a way to warm up a cold audience, people that you
Yes.
could potentially get into your email list. And then once they're in the standard ways, once they're in your email list, then you start to warm them up, and then you can sell them something. But when you're doing this Instagram story
Yes.
stuff, they're already warm before they even get to your email
but
list.
think about this. How about you send them that work tape? All you have to do is tell me where to send it. Now they've just given you their email address. So now you've just
Boom.
given them that child, that the worst thing that can happen is they share it. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Yes, let them share it. It's like, so that's something that's exclusive. It's not the same as email for a download, which we all still do. I mean,
Yeah.
Billboard did a story for a long time ago. I did the psychology. It was the 7 free songs is what it was called. And I said, well, the psychology is Here's the thing. The email for address for a song isn't a new concept. Rock bands have been doing it forever. Problem was, no one taught them how to do proper email marketing.
Yeah.
So vote for me, do for me. Here's my show coming up. Me, me, me. It's like we hate our friends that just show up when they need stuff. That's what our favorite artists were, so we wouldn't give our name. We're like, no, I'll buy the song if I want it. I don't need to be bombarded with a bunch of emails about you. So then now you've got your program that comes along. I'm sitting there going to myself going, okay, wait a minute. Now how do we get the email address? By giving them something exclusive, giving them access, something that they can only get. And what you do is don't ask people to sign up for your list. No one wants to be on a list. I'm trying to get off list every day.
Yeah.
Do not use the word subscribe. Powerful words. I want to give you access to something. Tell me where to send you the invitation. You want to use these powerful words. You were talking about that today in your presentation. It's like, yeah, we're putting them on a damn list, but that's not what we're using it in a different way. So what we always say is, I have this very cool thing I want to send you. Tell me where to send it.
That's awesome.
No problem. And they'll write that down. And now with the last thing on Instagram, is just a couple weeks ago at the taping of this, they're now doing long form video, and you can take up to an hour and post it. So, but the key is vertical. This is how we look at it. So shoot your videos in vertical. So Taylor Swift, she's here in Nashville tomorrow, taking the family to the show. First time we've seen her in 10 years. It's going to be really kind of exciting for that. She went and took her most recent song and just took her phone and shot it in vertical so that they could release it, because they realized this is how we're consuming our content now, is on our phone. We're not consuming it on our phones this way. So vertical is very key. It's awesome. So if you're shooting something, take a picture horizontal and take one vertical. And when posting on Instagram, when it asks you, would you also like me to share this on Twitter and Facebook? The answer is no, because the hashtags are not the same, and the people that you're tagging, that may not be the same handle on Twitter as it is on Instagram. But take that content, take an extra 2 minutes out of your day and share it to your Twitter audience and share it to your Facebook audiences, because not everybody's on all three platforms at the same time. So don't let it share for you, but make sure that you share it. And I hope that has helped.
That's amazing. So I'm going to do a laser round.
Yes.
A laser round.
Yes, I'm a Taurus.
Yeah.
Like walks on the
Instagram.
beach. Oh, okay.
Instagram, because I think we got a lot of you, which is great. So great. Laser round
Enough
of Instagram.
Of me is what she's saying, right? Lasergram, Instagram.
Lasergram. Okay. So I'm going to ask you 3 questions.
Okay.
What is the number one thing a musician should do, not in stories, but in their actual photo taking? Any strategies that they are must have? Absolutely.
It's not about you. It's about them. So find out what everybody else is sharing about. So if you're walking on the beach, if you're going into a movie, if you've got 2 pairs of shoes, I'll use you an example. You had them hot red shoes on today.
I do.
Put 2 pairs of shoes and put a poll. Which one? People love giving their opinion.
But that's a story.
That you could do that on a story.
The
You
poll.
could also.
Can you do a poll on the regulars?
If you're going to
timeline?
take a picture, you can ask whatever you want.
Oh, and people can leave comments.
Yeah, because
Okay,
once you start getting comments, they're going to let other people see it. Once again, they're not letting everybody see your stuff,
Sure.
because there's now sponsored ads you might have noticed inside your feed. So anything to create engagement. So that's number 1.
Great. Anything to create engagement.
Yes.
I'm gonna actually insert there for your actual timeline. I just heard some great advice. Take a look at what your last 9 photos were when you go to your profile, and see if there's like I've started to see that I have this blue sort of consistent color, and it looks really nice. When I go to really awesome, my favorite Instagram profiles, their whole thing, like, it looks like a brand. It looks very consistent. Either there's some quotes, or and it doesn't need to be anything specific other than it's all really aligned. And I love that visually. And the quotes are the same thing, or sorry, not the quotes, the whatever the caption is sort of consistent. So
I do a lot of quotes as well. I'm a big motivational guy. I use the white brick background a lot. I'll use the wood background. Keep in mind, 90% of the folks though will only see it in their feed. So like Cheryl's saying, if you've got consistent branding, as it pops up in their feed, if they're used to seeing that consistent branding, they'll know it's you.
Yeah.
So it's super important, because yes, if they come to you, great, that uniformity looks great. But even if they don't, that's because I'll have people always try to argue and go, well, Rick, most people don't go to my place. I said, yeah, but if the golden arches scroll up, you know it's McDonald's, don't you?
Yes.
Absolutely. If the swoosh comes up, you know it's Nike. You're no different, because you are trying to stick out in a very crowded space.
Totally true. Cool. Second question.
Yes.
In the Instagram bio, best thing that someone could put?
Emojis.
Great.
Yeah, emojis get people's attention. Don't try to brag too much. Go look at Linktree. Will be in the show notes.
Yep.
If you want to send them to get a free download, if you're promoting your most recent YouTube video, make sure that's the link. If it's
and
your
change it often, depending on
you can change
whatever.
it every day. You can change it every hour if you
You're
wanted to.
not worried like, oh, I have a post from 5 days ago that says link in bio, but the link is changed
I'm not
now?
because, like I said, 90% of the folks aren't coming back. So those people that do come back, give them a place to go because they're your actives. They're your engaged.
Great.
We can't worry so much about the majority because we don't get to be in front of the majority.
Great.
Find what your people
Perfect.
want.
Last question.
Yep.
Best way to quickly grow your Instagram following?
Comment on other people's posts and get involved in as many conversations as you can. Instagram is the one platform that will limit the number of people that you can have, 7,500. That you're allowed to follow. So you'll hear some platforms go follow for follow. So you'll follow a bunch and then you'll unfollow. I found the best way for me is I go find out the hashtags that are happening and I go tell somebody how great their picture looks. I go make a comment on their picture and then they comment back. And usually when you comment on somebody's post that hasn't followed you back yet, the first thing they do is they see that there's not a follow back and they're going to follow you. So the key is to get involved in as many conversations as you can. And when it's right, bring up the fact that you do music, but don't go in straight up flame throwing at people.
Totally.
Date them first.
Yeah.
Date
love
them
that.
first.
So I'm gonna tag on one last personal question for me. Instagram is different than Facebook because Facebook I have thousands of friends and Instagram is like I'm following the people that I really want to see, but I'm realizing that maybe I have to start to do the follow back thing.
You do.
Do I need to start following?
I think you should, but I think they should earn
Okay.
it. Okay, so
You have to earn my follow.
Well,
okay.
it's like if someone's going to engage and share your stuff, that's the person you want to
Sure.
follow
Yeah,
back.
of course.
If you're following somebody and you can go in, there's apps like Followers that you can go in and it'll tell you who your super people are, who's never shared anything, who's never done anything. It's like, well,
No, I don't need to follow
I don't
them.
need them, you know?
Okay.
And I'll tell them that if they come back, go, dude, you
Followers.
unfollowed me. I'm like, yeah, because you haven't shared anything. The thing I loved about you today, and the reason that I knew that we would be good friends is because we're both straight up. But we're not in a harmful way. We're solutions oriented. It's like we're going to smack you around and tell you what the problems are and what you need to fix. But we're two of the few I call practitioners that can actually show you how to fix it. We're walking around a place right now with a bunch of book reporters that read books and then do presentations on the books they read. We actually do this every day, and that's the thing that I knew would be great with your audience is that they're just like, we'll do it. Just tell us what we need to do.
Yeah.
Just give it to us.
I love direction. So that's what I give musicians. It's like, here, we need to do X, Y, and Z. So
Perfect.
This has been super awesome. I need to go change something. And you just said the app follows?
It's called Followers.
Followers.
And
so followers, I'm going to put those in the show notes.
I'll make sure you know what
Great.
it looks like. So I have on my phone, which is great, is I have a little folder that says Instagram. And inside Instagram is everything I use. Typorama, which makes cool little posts,
I use
repost.
WordSmart.
Yes, and also too, could I say a quick little side note?
Please.
If you see something you really like on Instagram, you can now share it to your own story. Okay, so now you could take what's hot, what's trending, what somebody likes, share it into your story, and people will think you're cool and you're up to date with what's happening.
Yes,
but
that's
this
all
is
I ever want is for people to
This
think
is
I'm
the
cool.
Followers app.
Yep, followers.
And it tells you who your peeps
Amazing.
are. Yep.
Okay, I'm getting the followers app and the Linktree.
Yes, you're in there.
All right, we're doing it.
You're a pro now.
Rick Barker, thank you so much. RickBarker.com and all these other things are going to be in the show notes. Thank you
You're
for
welcome.
taking
Thank
time
you.
out of you selling and doing all the great stuff that you're
We're
doing
good.
here. And
We're good.
Yeah.
Please don't forget to rate, like, and subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and YouTube if you like this podcast. Musicians like you keep me inspired and motivated, and for doing that, I'm offering you my Mastering Email 12-page workbook. It's packed with valuable exercises and information to get clear on implementing and mastering your email list strategy. This will help you figure out the best kind of platform for your specific goals, including a 7-step process to build, grow, engage, and monetize your list, all while feeling authentic and on brand with your music. Get your Mastering Email workbook at inthekey.co/masteringemail. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time on Key Conversations. The theme song on this podcast was provided by yours truly. If you're interested to find out more about my composing and songwriting projects, go to inthekey.co/Cheryl. If you're a musician looking to get some real results for your music career, then head to inthekey.co/results, where I've created a bunch of different kinds of resources just for you. Key Conversations is sponsored in part by Bandzoogle. They make it easy to build a beautiful website for your music. Their step-by-step system gets you online in minutes, and you can choose from hundreds of mobile-friendly themes and customize them with their point-and-click editor. All of the features you can imagine for a possible website are built in. So, because you're a Key Conversations podcast listener, you get a special month free trial plus 15% off if you do decide to sign up, just for you. Go to inthekey.co/make-a-site to get the offer.